States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our next scheduled meeting will be Wednesday, August the 3rd, and the next agenda meeting will be scheduled for Tuesday, August the 6th. We're going to try to follow Robert's rules of order during this meeting, and I think by now the commissioners should know what those are. Clerk, read the roll.
Mr. Campbell Mesa.
Here.
Ms. Frenchco.
Here, and please document that the meeting started late due to the executive session with our council that the other two commissioners had that was not on our agenda.
There was no executive session this time. I don't know why you come up with these things.
You're meeting with the attorney. Okay.
Mr. Fuda.
Here.
Item number 1, to dispense with reading the minutes of the regular meeting dated July 20th, 2022, and approve them as distributed and printed.
Move to dispense with the reading of the minutes.
No, it would be, you have to finish reading.
Is there a second?
I want to make a motion to supersede. Motion to dispense with reading of the minutes dated July 20th and approve them as distributed or printed. Again, whenever we make motions, it could be to motion to deny or whatever, motion to table. You have to say that it's a motion to approve.
Move on.
There needs to be a second on the proper motion.
Ms. Frenchco.
Was there, I had a motion on the floor. Was there a second?
We were in the middle of voting on something.
I was correcting it on behalf of the board.
You had the opportunity. You didn't want to second it, Ms. Frenchco. I seconded it, and you didn't.
Commissioner, when you say motion, you can't say a motion to dispense. You have to say a motion to approve dispensing. If you don't say to approve, then it's not proper. If you're talking about Robert's Rules of Order, Commissioner, seriously.
Move on.
I need a second for that.
Yes, we need a second for that motion.
For your motion?
Yes, to approve them.
Evidently, there's no second. So
There's no second to approve the meeting minutes?
The agenda item number 1 was moved and seconded. I don't understand what the problem is.
It didn't say a motion to approve.
It says it in there. Okay, It says and approve.
Oh,
now.
I have a little discussion here. You had a hour-and-a-half meeting yesterday. That was the first thing on your agenda. You wait until the meeting to come in again.
Point of
You
order.
didn't want, you have that.
Point of
Tuesday-
order. This is
you have
not
that
related.
Tuesday morning,
This isn't
Mr.
related
Russell,
to this
and
agenda
again,
item.
You will not let me speak because you don't want to let anybody.
Points
speak.
of order. You have,
There is no
President.
point
If
of
you're,
order.
you have
You
to
had the
respond.
opportunity yesterday at your meeting to make this change and you didn't do it.
It's not making a change. It's the way our board has to conduct business, and we have to approve. We can't just say move. We have to say move to approve. And if no one says move to approve, then our minutes are actually wrong, and we've got someone already watching us because we're not doing the right thing. And I want to make sure that these are done right. I'm doing my best to protect the interests of the boards by making sure that we move to approve. And there is a motion on the table to approve suspension of the.
Second, let's
Thank
just
you.
move on.
Ms.
This is
Frenchco.
childish.
Ms. Frenchco.
Okay, so the second, the discussion, I just want to say that this is the first time since I've been here that the meeting minutes are actually being approved, and I'm happy for that. So that's my comment.
Sitting there if they were right, and you're
Stop.
sitting there wrong.
Stop talking, please.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Cancela Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion from the floor to turn off the phone because we're not able to find out the people who are disrupting and interfering. Sometimes they call in, they shout out cuss words and things like that. It's not acceptable, and that disruption, without knowing who they are, they can't be arrested. So, we need to make sure that we're able to have a meeting without disruption. So I have a motion to turn off the phone to prevent that.
I will say then, the disruptions will only come from you, as they normally are.
There's a motion on the floor.
Okay?
Is there a second? Can you run the meeting, Mr. President?
I am.
Then you have to say, is there a second? Or this
There
guy?
is no second.
You please pay attention and run the
Okay,
meeting.
Ms. Frenchco?
Item number 2, to approve the bills.
Motion to approve the bills.
Second.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Cancel Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Item number 2, to approve additional appropriations.
Motion to approve additional appropriations from the Board of Elections and the Sheriff's Department.
Second.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Cancel Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Item number 4, to transfer appropriations.
Motion to transfer appropriations to the departments requesting county courts, prosecutor, Board of Elections, Health Board, Youth Subgrant, Treasurer.
Second.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Cancel Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Item number 5, to receive the amended certificate of the County Budget Commission, number 18, 2022.
Motion to receive the amended certificate.
Second?
Mr. Cancel Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 6, to appoint Attorney Demetrius Makridis as a member of the Trumbull County Law Library Resources Board for a 5-year term commencing July 27, 2022 and ending July 27, 2027. Attorney Makridis will replace Magistrate Jamie Bishop, who recently resigned from the board.
Motion to appoint Attorney Demetrius Makridis.
Second?
Discussion. I would like to let the board know that this wasn't advertised, and last year at some point since I joined the board, we all agreed, and I don't know if it was via journal action or just discussion, that we would ensure that that board appointments were advertised appropriately. We found out that the director of that board, who's, I know your personal attorney, just decided who to ask to apply. I asked for proof of which law firms had been requested to apply for that. He didn't respond and say which law firms he asked. He said he just wanted to use people who come to the law library. I just don't agree with the process, and I think that we need to make sure that there was at least an advertisement in the legal news or something, because it seems like it was handpicked, and though this might be a good attorney, I think that there needs to be an application process that's more involved than just picking a couple of people and saying, will you apply? Can we, and then I'd like to move to
Call the roll, please.
table this. I'd like to move to table this so that we can actually make sure that there is a advertising process.
I believe you received the same information I received.
And there was no advertising process.
The advertising process? I think he explained everything to you, Ms. Mitchell.
He said that he didn't advertise.
Okay.
He just picked a couple to apply.
Move on.
There's a motion to table. No second, so I'll go back to the original, which is Mr. Cancel Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes?
Ms. Frenchco.
Only because, not because of the attorney, but because the process wasn't very transparent. They were kind of picked instead of advertised. I'm going to have to vote no.
Item number 7, to advertise a request for qualifications to hire an outside employment law firm, not presently retained by the county to conduct an independent investigation of comp time accrual and other payroll issues at the Sanitary Engineers Department and other departments as deemed necessary by the law firm after discussion with the Board of Commissioners. Note, the State Auditor's Office suggested that the county correct the violations or decide subsequently to allow them. No formal investigation has been done, and disciplinary action may be required after a formal investigation is conducted.
Motion to advertise for an RFQ to hire outside employment law firm not presently retained by the county to conduct an independent investigation of comp time accrual and other payroll issues at the Sanitary Engineers Department and other departments as deemed necessary by the firm or the Board of Commissioners. We had the state auditor come up to speed with what has happened, and their office said that the county needs to either correct the violations, which is in essence acknowledging that violations existed, or to subsequently allow them. So that's the reason for this item.
Just dies for lack of a second.
Wow.
Item number 8, to advertise for and establish a 9-person panel to review multiple complaints about the medical treatment at the Trumbull County Jail, to compare services to other county jails, to evaluate outcome measures and performance associated with the jail medical services provider, and to provide feedback to the Board of Commissioners who voted 2-1 to renew the current medical services contract without a request for proposals or request for qualifications as recommended by the Trumbull County Prosecutor's Office. Each commissioner will appoint 3. Note, the Board of Commissioners do not oversee the sheriff or other elected officials. However, the board is the contracting party for other elected county officials. Commissioner Frenchco states over a dozen complaints came to the commissioners in the last few weeks, and the recent effort by Sheriff Monroe to mislead the commissioners relative to a recent complaint investigation. A volunteer group can ensure the complaints are properly addressed, make suggestions that commissioners could share with the sheriff.
Motion to approve advertising to establish a 9-person panel to review multiple complaints about the jail, medical treatment at the Trumbull County Jail, and to compare services to other county jails to evaluate outcome measures, performance associated with the jail medical services provider, and to provide feedback to the Board of Commissioners who voted 2-1 to renew the current medical services contract without a request for proposals or request for qualifications as recommended by the Trumbull County Prosecutor's Office. Each commissioner will appoint 3 members. And then I want to just discuss the note. Since I read that letter and I was arrested for discussion of some of the things that are going on at the jail that aren't exactly, that are questionable, I've received dozens of complaints and I'm overwhelmed. I was brought to tears last week by reading some of them. There were pages of people who were, ranging from people who had prostate cancer who weren't being treated, to people who have broken their clavicle, someone who lost a toes from MRSA. I've had, most recently there was someone who said that they have neurological problems and seizures and brain bleeds, and they're putting cotton. This letter said that they're putting cotton in their ear instead of providing them treatment, and the person could die. I feel at a complete loss as what to do. I know that when I was over there for a moment, they sent over someone who clearly wasn't a nurse. I think it was like a med tech or something like that. So I'm questioning the quality of the individuals there. I know that the state law allows that in jails you can have a med tech, which is different than an RN or a nurse to do an assessment for a doctor. But I think I feel helpless to help these people who are sending these complaints to me, and I want to be able to establish some type of a panel so that they could maybe look at how other counties are doing things and then collectively send those over, because it seems that based on the reading of the sheriff's letter that all he wanted to do was for all these individual complaints to go straight to him. But when he did find out the one complaint, he said that person said that he quoted him as saying that the sheriff does a great job, but they cut it off because the rest of his quote was for him, not for us. So it seems as if the sheriff is making an effort to mislead the public relative to these things. And I feel like I need to actually do something, and this might be a step in the right direction. And I hope the Board of Commissioners would agree to put together something.
This dies for lack of a second, and I'd be happy to talk to the press or anybody else about all these situations. Commissioners are paid $98,000 a year to do a job. So far, a commissioner has asked for a panel to do every job that she should be doing. Are we gonna pay those people part of your $98,000 a year, Ms. Frenchco?
You know, Commissioner, if we're talking about panels, we've gone since January without an HR director. I was the only commissioner who went through them.
You're the only one who has stopped this.
No.
You have done nothing
Okay.
about the human resource person. I have to push that.
I asked to contract with someone.
Ms. Frenchco. You
We're
don't
off
tell
topic.
the
Exactly.
truth up
So
here.
point of order, you're off topic.
You don't stand to talk the truth here, Ms. Frenchco.
God, scream a little
Let's
louder.
move on, clerk.
Item number 9, to adopt a resolution declaring the necessity of constructing the Keaton Street Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project, known as County Project Number 5S13, for the Trumbull County Combined Sanitary Sewer District. Note, Thursday, September 1, 2022, at 7 p.m. will be the time at Niles McKinley High School Auditorium for the public hearing, where there could be a hearing of objections or acceptance of this project.
Motion to adopt the resolution.
Second, discussion. This has been a project that we've been working on for 15 years now. And it's finally, actually it was before that, when I was a councilman, we worked on that project. It's a very important project. It affects the lives of these people. And I think we got it down to about $35 per month per person. Great job, Gary. It's been something that we haven't, because of many problems with the project, haven't been able to do, but I appreciate your work here.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Fuda,
Yes?
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 10, to approve change order number 1 with Express Underground Incorporated. This is for contract K of the Blueprint Waterline Initiative Project, number 5W15. The change order is for an increase in the amount of $11,331.56, revising the total contract amount to $218,556.56. The entire cost of this change order will be paid with American Rescue Plans.
Motion to approve the change order number 1 with Express Underground Incorporated for contract K Blueprint Waterline Initiative Project for $11,331, revising the total amount of the contract to $218,556.56.
Second.
Discussion. I spoke at my meeting. You know, everyone knows that Mr. Newbrow doesn't go to my meetings to discuss his agenda items, but I did have some questions about this because I'm looking at it and it says in the language underneath that the change order is necessary to reflect the increase in material costs. And it also says that the contractor agreed to hold his bid beyond 60 days under the condition that an adjustment would be made for the increased material costs. So I called to make sure that Gary would call into the meeting and explain these things, because the question I had was, in my supporting documentation, I do not have a copy of that agreement that says that the county was going to hold the bid price and change the dollar amount of this contract. And he said, and this is a quote, "This isn't in the contract." And additionally, I said, "Well, how did you come up with this?" And he said, "The contractor sent me an email saying that he would hold the prices for this, this, and this. And then I said, well, was that signed? Was there an agreement? And he said, no, I wouldn't call it an agreement. That is another direct quote. So I have a problem with that. This is the person who has been in charge of our engineering for, I don't know, every time I come to meetings, I hear about the $90 million worth of projects that he's overseen, so on and so forth. But if that is the case, then then I'm concerned that he doesn't understand that whenever, as a government entity, or anyone for that matter, if it's not a contract, it's not a contract, it's not a contract. There are no verbal agreements in government. There are no verbal agreements in government when you're messing with taxpayers' money. You don't get to have someone just say, well, I need a change order. I mean, they just signed their contract and already they need a change order to increase it, and it's not in the contract. He acknowledged that. I think that the board should vote no on this, because we need to make sure that our contracts are done properly and that all of those things are written in, and if there's a subsequent agreement, that the public and the board knows. I didn't know about this, and that's not acceptable.
Mr. Newbrow, you want to get up and explain, please?
Yeah, commissioners, yeah, this wasn't in the contract. That's why we're having a change order to make it a part of the contract.
You understand that, Mr. Simpson?
Oh, okay. It wasn't in the contract, so you're going to just allow someone to, their material costs were in the contract, Gary.
We agreed to it, and we're going to be cooperative with them. They held their bid price. They increased the
So it was a verbal agreement.
We understand that, so we agree with them that, okay, we'll give you a change order and change the contract and make you whole.
So it was a verbal agreement?
No, it's a written agreement right here on paper.
No, the contract actually,
They requested this, and I'm asking you to approve it.
it's a change order. It's not part of the current contract. Do you gentlemen understand that?
Change orders are.
But it's
You voted on
not,
many change orders in the past.
We're adjusting the contract.
Do you realize you voted on many change orders in the
yes,
past?
but this is not part of the contract. This
They
is,
never are.
no,
That's why
what,
they're change orders.
it's,
Why they're change
wait,
orders.
please understand that the cost of materials were a part of the contract, and they're changing the cost of materials. You're not,
Why a change order?
Because the cost of materials have gone up since the original time. This has been delayed for a while, right?
so then, is that going to set a precedent that every single contractor that we've got out there is going to now be able to say, hey, we want a change order too because our costs went up even though we were locked in? You can't do
You
that.
voted on change orders in the past multiple times without any discussion.
But this is actually
Here,
the very,
for the last 16
I don't
years,
understand.
we wouldn't have anything done.
It's clear that you don't understand.
Department. You try to stop any progress we're doing in Trumbull County, Ms. Grimsley.
it's not
That
progress.
has
They're
been
going to
your
be,
job
they're going to be,
since day one.
your job is to manage the contract and ensure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing within the parameters of it and at the cost that they signed it for. They're not. There's no additional work. The contract doesn't say that if there's an increase, we're going to increase the cost, and you know that, Gary.
They're talking
That's why
about
we're doing a
the
change
cost
order,
of
because the
items.
contract doesn't have that in it.
Doing the work,
You're
we're
not-
not talking about
You-
increasing.
You're trying to convince these two who aren't as bright that what you're doing is okay, and you know that it's wrong, Gary. It's not part of the contract. I asked you. We had a
All right,
discussion.
let's stop. Let's move on.
Ms. Frenchco.
No.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fuda made the motion for that.
Yes.
No, I did.
Councilor Mesa.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
No.
Thank you.
That was
Item number 11, to concur with the Trumbull County engineer to grant the quarterly operator fleet permit and act with MPT Trucking LLC.
to concur with motion to approve concurring with the Trumbull County engineer to grant the quarterly operator fleet permit to travel on posted roads and to MPT Trucking LLC.
Second.
I have discussion. Again, I know the highway department was at your closed meeting for an hour and a half yesterday. Wouldn't come to my meeting to discuss this for 10 minutes. And I vote on these because I have, and I know what this stuff is about over the last 15 years. I don't understand why your meetings are all closed, not transparent, Ms. Frenchco. My transparent meeting, the highway department refuses to come to. Same thing you're talking about, Mr. Newbrough. Move on.
Okay, so the reason that
Move on.
I'm responding to your respect, you need to offer me that same respect. So I have a meeting without the other two so that I can go through all of the supporting documents, the contracts and everything, so that I can make sure that I understand everything that I'm voting on without being screamed at by the other two. And so I have that within my right as a commissioner to do my due diligence to make sure that I'm voting on things that I understand and that I have had the opportunity to discuss with those who are requesting that they go on. So that's why I do
Why
that.
don't you make it open to the public?
Because then that would require one of you two to come and start
No,
yelling at me.
No, you refuse
Oh.
to let us come to. I
I'm talking
had,
about the press and the public.
and you don't come. You want to put things on the agenda, and I have the agenda meeting, and you don't come to explain them, but you want us to vote on them. Just the opposite of what you keep saying, Ms. Frenchco. You got to get things straight. You have to follow the same rules as the other
Okay, Frank.
commissioners, Ms.
Okay.
Frenchco.
Biden.
Okay?
Okay.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Item number 12, to concur with Trumbull County Engineer to grant a special annual supplier fleet permits. And that's with RT Vernal Paving and Excavating Incorporated, King Sanitary Service LLC, Don's Trucking and Excavating, Brodowski Brothers and Company, Miller Yacht Paving Incorporated, and Cindy Crump, Endernell and Sons.
The same rules.
Motion to concur with the Trumbull
Was
County Engineer to.
Was one just added? Did you omit one yesterday?
Yes, number Cindy Crump Internal.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion to concur with the Trumbull County Engineer to grant special annual supplier fleet permit.
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Item number 13, to concur with the Trumbull County Engineer to grant the right-of-way permits requested by companies, and that's Dominion Energy Ohio, Mark Governor, Village Energy Cooperative Association.
Motion to concur, to approve concurring with the Trumbull County Engineer to grant the right-of-way permits requested by the companies listed: Dominion, Mark Governor, Village Energy Cooperative Association.
Second.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Item number 14, to adopt the alternative tax budget for the next succeeding fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023, effective July 27th, 2022, and authorize Frank S. Fuda, President of the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners, to execute the alternative tax budget.
Motion to adopt the alternative tax budget for the next succeeding fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023, effective July 27th, 2022, and authorize the President of the Board to execute the alternative tax budget.
Second.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Item number 15 is a resolution authorizing expenditure for responding to or mitigating the public health emergency from American Rescue Funds. And this is to replace and upgrade existing courthouse rooftop chiller and tower cooling unit. Whereas the county has received a distribution of monies, the ARPA funds from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Whereas Congress passed the act effective March 11, 2021. We'll skip down a little bit and we'll say that whereas the U.S. Treasury has recognized Section 603 ARPA funds may be used to fund COVID-19 mitigation efforts. And this project is hereby authorized and shall be paid for from ARPA funds in an amount of an amount not to exceed $339,000.
Okay, motion to modify the language to eliminate the words rooftop and all portions. Number 15, it says, at the very top, it says replace and upgrade existing courthouse rooftop chiller and tower cooling unit. And at the bottom, it continues to say resolution courthouse rooftop. That language needs changed because it's not a rooftop chiller unit. So motion to modify it to strike the language that's incorrect. It's not a rooftop
Where do you
unit.
see that at the bottom? I'm sorry.
Right here. And at the top. It's not a rooftop unit.
Is the maintenance department here?
I have the backup. Do you want to see the paperwork? But you didn't look at the
It's not a rooftop
contracts?
unit?
I asked if the maintenance
Okay.
department was here or on the phone so they could.
Well,
get
it's
this
in my
correct.
supporting
I'll second
documentation
it.
too.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Cancel Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes, hopefully we'll get some clarification from maintenance later.
He provided it yesterday, and there's backup documentation, so you can see the contract, the bid tab, and everything, so.
Item number 16, to accept and award the lowest and best bid submitted by Comfort Systems USA to install a new solar tower and cooling tower, including all labor and materials as specified in the project documents, including removal of the current cooling solar and tower cooling at the Trumbull County Courthouse. The base bid is $327,900 plus an alternate of $11,100 for a total amount of $339,000, which includes the alternate. Other bids submitted were Prop Boiler, Heating and Welding Incorporated, Western Reserve Mechanical Incorporated, and Conti Corporation, and Wadsworth Solutions did not submit a bid for this project.
I just have a quick question, Madam Clerk. On 15, did we strike the language and approve it, or did we just move to strike the language?
No, just the language rooftop, because
Okay,
it's
and then
not,
approve it as well?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, we're on 16.
Yes.
Motion to accept and award the lowest and best bid submitted by Comfort Systems.
Second, in discussion, I am really happy. We had our meeting yesterday where we went over the bid tabs and what the alternate bid was, and had a nice discussion with Mr. Slawinski and our maintenance director, Bill Hart. And I asked about how they found out if it was the best bidder, and he actually supplemented the information yesterday and sent over a spreadsheet which showed how they determined that it was the not just the lowest bidder but the best. And that is something that I asked Mr. Newbrow about doing, and he was reluctant. Hopefully, last week we had something on the agenda that was identified as being the lowest and best, but there was no effort to determine if it was the best. And so if Mr. Slawinski can do it, then I think Mr. Newbrow can do it, and I'd like to encourage that. Thank you.
Ms. Frenchco, this guy does a superb job, and he's done a superb job, and you keep attacking him week
No.
after week.
No.
You know nothing about the work that we've done over the last 15 years. I know you're dealing with a former sanitary engineer, and I don't know what your situation is here, Ms. Frenchco.
My situation.
I know what the
okay,
situation
so my
is.
situation is, and I'll reiterate it again this week, is whenever we have something that says lowest and best, there has to be a method to show that you're making sure that that happened. And I'm actually looking at the paperwork. I'm looking at the paperwork, and it doesn't identify that any other contractors, any other one except for Rudznick that was last week, was the only one that they spoke with to determine if they were the best. I said that there should be a file developed for each of them, and those are things that maybe that's not how you guys have done it or how he has done it, but I am here as a different commissioner, a new commissioner, and I want to do things in a different way. So yes, I am different. Yes, and I want to make sure that
Okay, Ms. Frenchco.
it's in the best interest of the county to confirm that you're not just saying rubber stamp, yep, this is the best, when you didn't contact any of the other ones. So
This guy has worked with every one of these contractors he's dealing with for many, many years. He knows the job that they do.
So he
Those
can.
the ones that have made mistakes in the past.
So what's wrong with trusting
And the
but
ones that
verifying?
don't.
How about trust but
Why
verify?
won't you let me speak?
Because you're saying the same
Why
thing.
won't
It's
you
terrible.
Let me speak, Ms. Frenchco?
Go ahead. I mean,
Because you think you're the only person here. He does a phenomenal job. He has the experience. That's why he's in that position. And if you check, the job he has done was believed to not even be able to happen. But you haven't been here to recognize that. You just make statements and you accuse people
No.
meeting after meeting. And you don't have a clue what this commissioner's job is about.
the commissioner should not allow one person to unilaterally select who a best contractor is without even evaluating all of them. It's absolutely wrong.
Hey, Mr. Newbell, you want to explain this to
Yeah,
me?
commissioners, I've been told by various legal counsel throughout the years as we bid out these projects for a construction contract, if you don't give it to the low bidder, you better have one heck of a good reason why not. You give it to the low bidder on construction contracts, unless you got something, some outstanding reason why not to. There's no
You gotta show
qualification,
some negligence.
evaluation or any of that.
You have to show
It goes to the
serious
low bidder,
negligence.
and
Yeah.
that's,
According to our prosecutor.
yes.
Okay, we'll vote. Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Item number 17, to rescind the journal action taken by the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners on July 13th,
Oh, never mind.
2022, duly recorded in the Journal Volume 154, page 24936, to approve a subrecipient grant agreement by and between the Ohio Department of Natural Resources acting through its division of Parks and Watercraft. And
Motion to rescind the journal action, taken by the board, to approve the subrecipient grant agreement by and between Ohio Department of Natural Resources and Division of Parks and Watercraft, ODNR, and the Trumbull County Sheriff's Office.
Second it?
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes, and to approve rescinding it.
Item number 18 is to amend the journal action taken by the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners on April 27, 2022, Journal Volume 154, page 24763, approving a grant agreement by and between the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, acting through its division of Parks and Watercraft, and Trumbull County Sheriff's Office. The agreement is necessary requirement in order to obtain a 2022 Marine Patrol Assistance Grant applied for by the Trumbull County Sheriff's Office. The estimated cost of the program is $34,255.03. The state of Ohio agrees to pay $25,691.31, and the local share is $8,563.76. This amendment is necessary for an appropriation share for $5,380.38. This is less than the total amount due to a carryover of $3,183.38. So, amendments necessary for a carryover.
Motion to amend the journal action taken by the board. Motion to approve amending the journal action taken by the Board of Commissioners on April 27th for the agreement between the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, acting through the Division of Parks, Watercrafts, and the Trumbull County Sheriff's Office.
Second.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
I'd like to move to table 19 and 20 and invite our director to explain why.
19 has to do with job and family
Oh,
services.
sorry. My mistake. I apologize.
Just read number 19 and we'll move on from
Yeah.
that. Item number 19, to approve the personnel action for the promotion of 4 non-bargaining employees within the Trumbull County Department of Job and Family Services effective August 1st, 2022. The state of Ohio personnel action forms will be recorded on the journal for record purposes. The promotions include Mr. Richard Francis, and he'll be making $38.88 an hour. And he'll be the program administrator, Ms. Lisa Mattis, and she'll be the P/R supervisor 2 coordinator, and she'll be making $32.90 per hour. Ms. Taryn O'Hara, she'll be promoted to eligibility referral supervisor 1, and she'll be making $26.59 per hour. And the last will be Miss Marshall Raptis, and she will be promoted to eligibility referral supervisor 1 at $26.59 per hour.
Actually, I had my notes from yesterday, and I wanted to make a
motion?
I wanted to make a motion to table that one too, but it was I'm making a motion to table both of them. So I wanted to make a motion to table these ones, to table number 19. And if I can get a second, I could discuss why.
Motion dies for lack of a second.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel action for the promotion of the 4 non-bargaining employees.
Second?
Okay, so discussion. Last week, we just approved a county policy under the Board of Commissioners that all the employees that are non-bargaining, directors, supervisors, classified employees would come to our agenda and be approved by the board. Every other employee in that department, as they come in as new employees, union employees, we have a ranking sheet. So we see their rubric, we see how they scored, we see what their degrees are in, all these other things. And then we can approve them feeling confident that we know that they're gonna do a good job. Now, this came to our agenda without the supporting documentation that we only received after my meeting with them. They sent over how they evaluate them. My concern at this point was that whenever they're ranking for these types of commissioners, I hope, whenever they're ranking these, because I know that I asked make sure that the rest of the board got them, they have a category for meets for education. Okay, so these are administrators, program administrators, the top person, like a director of an agency almost. So it has a category that says meets educational requirements, and that's all. It's just marked. There's no ranking like exceeds or has a master's degree or has relevant education. And this is not a bargaining job. This is like the director of an agency. So for one of them, I noticed that they met that qualification, and then there's no other points. It's just boom, they met it, and they get points just for meeting that qualification. Then on the category where there's a written test, that one is ranked, okay? So this person scored lower than someone who scored much higher on the written portion of the test. And what they do rank in this administrative job as like a manager, director of an agency almost, okay? They actually have a ranking for how long they've been working at the agency. And so I understand that whenever it comes to union work. This isn't union work. This is the actual program administrator of a county agency where they don't get credit for if they have advanced degrees or masters in public administration or something that's extremely relevant. And they do get credit for working there for 20 years. So in essence, this one, the one right under this person actually scored higher on their written test. And the reason he got this is because of his time working there. Again, I understand that in unions, but this isn't a union. This is like a top level position. And I'm concerned with the way they are ranking over their rubric. It's not done in a fashion that is giving the best qualified person, the person who tested the best, the job. It's done in a fashion to give people who've been there the longest the position of director. And then I spoke to someone else who said that there have been other times that they'd actually reduce the qualifications for certain people that they want to advance. So I'm starting to believe that the way this has all been done without the commissioner's approval, for years since I was here. And with this ranking system where they're not considering as highly how well you do on the test, how relevant or how advanced your education is, but just like how long you've been there, it isn't in the best interest of the taxpayers, because I mean, we pass over someone who did better on the test because someone had been there longer. And if you've been there for over 20 years, I would imagine you would have scored best on the test. That's just my assumption. So I'm not happy with the way their ranking system is over there relative to the non-union and director positions. So I would like to table this until we could make sure that things are done in a proper way, in my opinion.
Ms. Frenchco, the union workers and the non-union workers, the most important is to get people that have had the experience and know the job. That's why union people are raised, because they do know the job. And that's why non-union. These are our experts. They know who the better people are. You're sitting at home texting these people, and you think you know.
No, point of order.
Yes, you do.
I was reading the email, and if you would have read, if you would get emails and read them, you would see, Frankie, you would actually
My name
see.
is Mr. Fuchs.
Okay, you would actually see that the person who scored the highest and knew the best wasn't selected. So I wanted to point that out to you. I don't see that you have those papers, but I read them in my email.
You realize
I wasn't texting. I have email.
18 months now, this is all you've done. You don't understand what goes on here at the commissioner's office. You don't understand how much work there is.
Okay.
You just think
Point of
it's
order.
all-
This isn't about the
Let me
topic.
finish
No.
talking, Ms.
Point of
Frenchco.
order. This isn't about the
Ms.
topic.
Frenchco, you've done that all day today. Now, when you are talking, do you see me interrupting you?
It's called
No.
point of order. It's the proper
No.
way to interrupt if someone's
Ms. Frenchco,
not on track.
You don't. But as soon as someone wants to answer your question, you interrupt because you don't want their input. We're going to let Job and Family Services explain this. Who's here from Job and Family
As
Services?
far as,
Why is
Commissioner
she's
Associates,
claiming that you're not putting the best people?
we are. The person that we're putting as a program administrator has been a coordinator for several years. Our plan, our succession plan is we have a program administrator, that administrator has a coordinator that's right under them. They work hand in hand. The person that scored less on the written test does have the experience. So that's why that person's moving up to the program administrator position. The person that scored better is moving to the coordinator position.
That wasn't even on what you sent me. You only sent me the rubrics for 2 people.
And those are the 2 people, the coordinator and the program administrator.
But the only ones that you sent me were 2, and I asked you to send me all of them. So for the first one,
There were only 2 that applied.
okay. So what I'm saying is not what he just said. I'm saying the way that you're ranking to where you have meets qualifications for education. You don't have what their degree is in or anything. You have meets qualifications.
I understand that.
Yes, you understand that could be improved?
Well, in our job description, we also have a grandfather clause. If you've been here from 2010, you meet the educational portion of it. And that's why we do not score for education, because one of the persons were grandfathered in.
And that is you, right?
No,
Okay, but I know that I'm just saying.
I'm saying for this position right now.
Okay, for this position, so you're grandfathering people, and isn't it better for the community and for the taxpayers to know that they've got the most qualified person? Okay, look, the county's filled with union employees, and I get that, and I understand that, and that's good for people to move up within their unions. But when you're moving up to a management director or coordinator position, you need to make sure that it's the best educated, qualified, talented, and all of that goes down to the bottom. Whether or not they've been there for 20 years doesn't really matter, because if they can't because if the other ones are scoring higher or have better education and would be able to bring better things to management, then to manage things better in the agency, that's who you need to look at. You're looking at a process that was developed decades ago, and you're continuing on with the same status quo where, okay, well, we're going to grandfather certain people in. We need to get away from that. We need to improve the standards and do things in a different way so that we're getting the most qualified people there. That has not been changed. It's clear that it hasn't been changed, and it needs to be changed. And I'd work with you to do that.
That's your opinion, Commissioner.
That's my opinion. Okay. But you're going to, what are you saying? Do you gentlemen
I'd
think
like
we
to say
should?
one, I'd like to say one thing.
I know you haven't looked at it.
No, I'd like to say one thing. That somebody who's been grinding at a job for 10 years, that has a good record, that comes to work, that puts in the effort, we all know those people, right? Are you saying that those people are not competent or up to par with somebody who has a degree that's better than
That
them?
is what she's saying.
I don't agree with that.
Experience,
I don't
that's
agree
not
with that.
something that-
Somebody that's grinded all those years and come in and put and given you 100%, and you've seen it, you've
And
witnessed
you
it.
are correct, Commissioner, because I do not have a degree, but I've been in my position for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go up against anybody with a degree, and I will show them.
Let's
up.
just
I'm
vote.
sorry.
It's
Because I
ridiculous.
know
No,
my job.
so I'm going to respond to that because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that
That is
no,
what you're saying.
what I'm saying is that it literally categorizes meets qualifications with no ranking like 2 points, 4 points, 6 points, 8 points, or 10 points. Meets qualifications in that category. Based on how long you've been there. And this is an administrative position. There are people who train to do that.
And there are people that are on the ground watching these people, not you. You haven't stepped foot in the department,
And-
so you don't know. They're
Don't
there
say-
every
don't say
day, and
that.
they manage these people, and they do know.
And the person who was lower, who had less time there, scored better on
That's it. I'm done arguing.
Then
Just vote
don't.
the way you
The-
want.
and
Vote the way you
I'm just
want.
going to say that the
I'm done.
person who they didn't select scored higher on the test. They weren't there as long, but they clearly have more institutional knowledge. So in those cases, you need to make sure that they have an opportunity too. But by making it so that the person who has more time and experience there, even if they don't score as highly in the test, is unfair because we're putting someone less knowledgeable, and that's demonstrated.
That's your opinion.
It's
because
not.
they have a degree.
No, it's demonstrate. You didn't even look at it clearly because if you looked at it, you would have seen. Then let me speak
Go
without
ahead,
interrupting. Let me speak without interrupting.
And that's
The
what
indi-
you do, Ms. Frenchco.
the individual who they
Please stop
didn't
pointing at
the
me.
individual who didn't
Please stop pointing at me.
no the individual who didn't get the opportunity to get the job was the one who scored higher. So it's not true that being there longer causes you to do
Okay.
better.
Okay,
Because
are you finished?
did
Are
you
you
even
finished?
look at what they sent you?
Are you finished?
Yes.
Let's call the roll.
I want to say one thing, Ms.
Yeah.
I do want to say one thing. I've worked with businesses for many, many years. A college degree tells that business, I think I can teach them that job that they have to do. You can get the brightest person in the world, and if he gets on that job and doesn't know how to do the job, it's a wasted degree.
You missed it.
Ms.
There's
Frenchco,
testing.
I'm trying to speak
There's
now.
testing.
Okay? So you keep thinking that just the better degree.
That's
is
not what
the
I
better-
said.
Just as you did best bids and things, it's the same situation. People that may not score the highest may not be the worst, may be the best person. I don't know where you're coming from on any of this, Ms. Frenchco. Let's move
Okay,
on.
so let me say, I think you missed something, Frank.
No.
The person who scored highest, it wasn't about their education necessarily. It was about them scoring higher than the person who'd been there longer on the test that shows their aptitude and understanding of the job. So the person who tested higher didn't get the job because they weren't there longer. So sometimes people are there, they show up, but they don't try to learn as much. And that person that was just given it over a person who scored higher on the test.
So what about if somebody's just a good test taker?
So if that person,
Okay.
according
I'm
to
just
the
saying,
staff,
you
is
think
the
the
better
test is
worker,
everything? But
I
they're
think-
not-
just
they're not-
because they
Okay.
didn't pass the test.
Well, I know that you will just rubber stamp as always, so I think we should vote.
Common sense in anything you're saying.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Because I disagree with the ranking system where people can score higher on the test and not get their jobs, then my vote is no.
Item number 20.
20 is the one that I want to motion to move to table. What after we invite the director to explain why this should be tabled.
20 is.
Am I on the wrong one? Yeah, that's it.
Removing it from the.
You're talking about 911?
I think this is the one I'm.
Director here,
Yes.
you want to come and explain what we discussed this morning, what I discussed with you this morning and yesterday?
In both meetings with you and Commissioner Fuda, we discussed the fact that this one-year extension was sent over.
Did you explain this to Commissioner Cancel Mesa yet?
He's
Or
listening.
was
She's
sent
gonna
over by
explain
Warren
it right
City.
now.
I just wondered,
I've
did
already
you?
discussed it with her on the phone. I don't know how that's relevant, but
Was sent over by Warren City in February. It was put on with this language in March. After the meeting with you yesterday, you instructed me to get with Prosecutor Danzo and see if we could construct. He has agreed to do that. He is extremely busy this week. It's his first week back. Understandably so. He is happy to go through the contract with me to construct the new language for the 3-year contract as we would like to see for our operational purposes. That being said, I have had plenty of communication with Safety Service Director Eddie Colbert in the last 2 weeks. And he is completely on board. We have instituted 2 action plans in trying to rectify what our problems are operationally. He understands that the payment has to be made. They are in agreement to make the payment. This extension is just what needs signed so we can continue on in the play to get the contract language adjusted. That is where we stand as of yesterday. So this is why I agree with this motion to be on the table so we can get the payment for the services we are already providing that are problematic. They acknowledge that and are working to get it rectified.
You're agreeing to remove this from being tabled, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So you want us to? You're saying that we should vote yes on it, but which would extend us through the end of the year.
But the language also says that we would give those months to work on the contract language. We're going to be doing the services anyway, and we're forced to at this moment because we hold the previous expired contract with them. So we're
These
providing the
two-
service, we just aren't being.
See, I thought yesterday you said that you didn't want to do this because you had him ready to redo the language within.
You instructed me to go talk to Prosecutor Danzo. We did discuss that. He feels that that is definitely something that we can go forward with,
But you were concerned yesterday about them continuing to operate within the parameters of a contract that they weren't following.
But those contracts, the language in that contract isn't being followed anyway, and that is what I'm saying has been the problem from the get-go. So we are complete agreement, the language is what needs to be corrected.
But moving on until the end of the year are we as a board going to enforce the contract to be followed and the way it should be, because it's not? Are we going to ask for penalties or say there's a breach of this contract because they can't continue to do it in that fashion? That's what I'm asking the board to.
This is going to happen here.
She doesn't
They're
understand.
going to have to start paying us the payments that they owed us, $350,000. That's the reason for these 2,
Yes, that's what I put them on.
okay?
So can you explain to him, please, that
I listened to her today. I talked to her already. After she talked to the prosecutor, I talked to her.
that there's
I talked to her before she
I'm
talked
talking
to the
about,
prosecutor.
can you explain the breach of the contract and you're saying, well, hey, they haven't been doing it anyway, so let's just continue. That they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing and it's costing the county more time and more money.
This is exactly what I talked to her about several days this week.
No, you talked about changing that in the
How do you know
future.
what I talked to her about.
What do you propose to make sure that they're doing it through the rest of the year in accordance to the contract? Is Bill Danzo going to send something that says this is a breach and correct it?
That is what he and I just discussed yesterday. He would be happy to address those issues and concerns of contract language. What he's going to, come up with from there, I can't speak.
I'm not talking about the next contract next year. I'm talking about right now they're not performing as the contract says, and that's a breach.
yeah, but they haven't been performing. So are we going to go back and say you haven't performed it for that long?
They're working without.
So that, the whole thing is to bridge this contract until we get language that's amenable to both parties, and that'll happen in January, by January, correct?
In the meantime, though, they are not performing as they're supposed to, and we need to have, I believe that the county needs to go after them for a breach because it's costing more time, more resources, more money to the county every time they fail to perform in accordance with that. And I understand. Can we?
This is what she's talking about.
But no, I don't think you're getting it. I'm talking about before next year's contract. Look, before next year's contract, going after the city for the breach of the contract if they don't perform the way they're supposed to.
This is what the meeting with the prosecutor is about. This is what we talked about.
No, we have to decide.
No, not
Listen.
we. This is what we talked about.
The board has to decide, just like when we had other people who didn't pay their bills and we had to go after them for that money.
Once we get the information from the director and the prosecutor, we have to make the decision whether we accept what they tell us.
No, you're not getting it. It's not whether not we accept what they're telling us. It's about currently, we're going to be using the old contract. The old contract isn't being performed or adhered to.
This is going to change with the prosecutor.
For next
correct?
year. But
Does that also include this year? Yes.
This extension is going to include, excuse me, from January
changes.
through to the end of December.
no, he thinks the changes are going to happen now, but he doesn't understand that they're.
No, I do understand. The changes are going to happen now.
As soon as they're able to.
He thinks that they're going to happen now.
It's going to, as soon as they come up with the language, Ms. Frenchco. Not today. They don't have any language.
This is an extension until the end of the year. So if it's until the end of the year, then that means, Frank, this is till the end of the year under the old language.
I understand that. Didn't you say the changes were going to be made?
They are going to implement the changes
Now.
as quickly as they can get them in place.
And we're going to
Yes,
get
so-
that in place now. Or you're saying you want to charge them for breach of conference? Is that what you're saying? Breach of contract now?
The only thing we can do right now, since we don't have an agreed upon new agreement, is to extend it until next year under the old language.
I understand, but didn't you say the prosecutor was going to reword this?
He is going to work with me on rewording it. That has
Th-
been
that's
the.
the-
That will
I
be
think
for
we're
next
missing the
year.
big picture is that in January, we're gonna have a new agreement that's gonna be amenable to all parties. We need to work with the city of Warren, not go after them. They're our partners, just like every other community is our partners. We need to be flexible and work with them. They finally come to the table. It took a long time, but they finally came to the table. And I think we're having meaningful dialogue now, and I think we'll get the language corrected. But to say that we're gonna
They're
go
not-
after them for breach of contract, when they've been in a breach of contract forever. I mean, when do you want to start going after them then? And at what point are you going after another political subdivision? Is that good?
Okay, your brother is, you shouldn't even be discussing this because really your brother is the
Please
person who
stop
wrote the contract that
Will
we're
you
looking
stop
at.
that?
So there's a conflict there, and I know that both of you know that. Enzo is writing it and you're like defending the fact that they're not performing, and that's, if you want to work for Warren, go work for Warren, but we work for the county over here.
I didn't say
Okay?
That is not what Ms. Cantor.
So the
I'm
issue,
trying to work with the city of Warren to come up with
and it took
meaningful
them
language moving
since
forward. That's
January for them, yes, and it's causing an undue burden on our 911 staff whenever they're not able to do a will you explain?
Let me just
Explain it.
Let me just say one thing. I'm sorry. There are different payments that we see from different entities throughout the county, whether they be townships, cities, jail contracts, whatever. There are times when there are late payments. That happens all
It's
the
not
time.
a late payment.
Should we go after them for breach of contract for not paying us on time?
This is something that's
We have to
costing us
go
money.
after
No,
every entity,
That's
every
not true.
township, every city that we contract with that happens to pass a deadline. Yes, it's the same thing. We got to work with them. We got to have amenable language to both parties. Period.
well, you actually went after West Farmington Village and sent a demand letter and threatened to sue them if they didn't pay
That
their
was after
contract.
how long?
Okay, exactly.
So now-
Anyway, you just
Now, Ms. Frenchco.
acknowledge that sometimes we do have to do that. Sometimes we do have to do that, right?
And you weren't in
just-
favor of it.
said the opposite.
You just
but we
said
wanna say
opposite.
now.
You
That's what he did.
Your friend at West Farmington, you wanted to do her
Opposite.
a favor.
Again, I just ask if you can explain the one-touch thing and the extra burden that it places on our staff, how it's supposed to be done. It's supposed to be done, can you explain that, please?
It's a one-button transfer. When we get an EMS call for Warren City, we're to one-button transfer it per the contract language. Since we have had Warren City and the demise of their EMS services, that's not been happening. They are not accepting them, and we sit there holding the call.
How long sometimes?
It can be great lengths.
Wh-
10,
did-
12, 15 minutes. I mean,
Are
there
you,
are.
are you confident right now that we're farther along in these negotiations than we ever have been, and that
Absolutely.
we're gonna see a light at the end of the tunnel here? Thank you.
And
That's what I need to know.
I got that from Eddie Colbert yesterday. He could walk in here right now, and
Mhm.
if he would be
It's
lying if he said otherwise.
It took a long time to get anyone from Warren to come and discuss these matters, and I'm glad for it, but my concern is the additional burden that it's costing our employees in our department by I think you told me that sometimes the calls are a half an hour, and their average was 15 minutes.
I don't know that half an
Okay.
hour. I mean, maybe multiple
Yeah.
calls within that same time frame.
But there's supposed to be just a one-button transfer where they handle it.
The
Okay.
staff at 911 goes above and beyond, always.
Yeah, they do.
To get EMS providers, and it is more a matter of a hardship on them emotionally
It is.
as well. And that's what is, in my eyes, completely unacceptable.
I agree.
But there are just to be honest and fair and completely candid, there are issues that the city of Warren has with the per call cost as well. So there are different things that need to be ironed out on both sides.
That is something that has just come of these communications as well.
Oh, just recently this is something about the per call cost?
Yeah.
Huh.
Ms. Frenchco,
Oh,
go ahead.
you trying to reduce it for? Because I didn't know about it, so I'm just saying.
We've had many problems.
You didn't
with
mention that to me.
Gerard and different communities that we've dealt with and worked out.
We
Okay.
have to- the key is we have to work with these communities to get meaningful and positive language for both parties moving forward. That's all I want to do.
We have to protect the county, and only us will
We
be
do
voting
that.
on it. So.
We do that.
We have done that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. Now,
Motion to remove from table, Commissioners, meeting agenda, dispatch services agreement by and between Trumbull County and City of Warren.
second it?
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Fuda,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 21, to extend the dispatch services agreement by and between Trumbull County and the City of Warren. Wherein Trumbull County 911 Center shall serve as a dispatch center for the City of Warren. The City of Warren agrees to pay Trumbull County the total amount of $623,185 per year, to be paid in monthly installments of $51,932. The agreement shall be effective from January 10th, 2022 until December 31st, 2022, and give both parties time to discuss the terms of the new 3-year agreement to begin January 1st, 2023. Either party may terminate the agreement by giving 180 days written notice.
Motion to approve the extension of the dispatch service agreement by and between Trumbull County and the City of Warren, wherein Trumbull County 911 serves as dispatch. City of Warren agrees to pay $51,932 a month, and the agreement shall be effective from January 10th, retroactively from January 10th, 2022 until December 31st, 2022, and give both parties time to discuss the new terms for the new 3-year agreement beginning on January 1, 2023. Either party may terminate the agreement by giving a 180-day written notice, which means that if they don't iron things out within a month, our director has also suggested terminating. So,
I'll second.
are you voting on this?
Yes.
Are you allowed to vote on it? It was written by your brother. The agreement was written by Enzo.
His brother has nothing to do.
He didn't write the agreement.
He's representing all the correspondence that he's been. The correspondence had Enzo's name as the law director under it that I saw.
Okay, then I'll abstain.
Okay, wait a minute. We gotta get this stuff straight too.
He's their law director.
You
I
have
mean,
told us that you had a very big settlement with the contractor in the past. And
Point-
in 2013.
Oh
And
my
you're
God.
still voting on the contracts with that contractor. It's the same situation.
And you vote on
Okay.
members of the TMHA board, and you own
It's the same
TMHA
No.
housing.
no, I don't.
I guess that's not.
No.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, you gotta start
Okay.
putting yourself in the same situation. You
That's fine,
are
I'll
in the
abstain.
same
For purposes
situation.
of transparency and complete transparency, I abstain. I'd just like to see the agreement get done, that's all. I'm confident the board will handle it.
You're gonna abstain, is that what you're saying?
I'm abstaining, yes.
So it needs a second.
Second,
And then discussion. I just want to mention as it relates to this that the only reason I'm voting that I think that this is good is so that the county can get paid. And I think it's terrible that this has gone on so long without the city working to resolve the issues. I think that just knowing that it was going to come to the agenda and there was going to be public discussion has prompted Colbert to actually come and talk, and I'm glad for that. And I just want to make sure that this all gets done and handled, because we only have 1 month before we can execute the termination clause, 180 days notice. So that gives us 1 month to make sure that we come to an agreement. So I want to reiterate that. Make sure that they know we don't have till the end of the year. We have 1 month. Okay.
But let's not lose sight of the fact that we're providing services to people in the city of Warren too.
For
this
free,
termination of
so.
services and all that only affects people. So let's keep the human.
No, it would give
aspect
them
of that
100.
very-
It would give them
let's
180
keep
days
that-
to.
the human
That was
aspect
her
of this very,
recommendation.
very-
I got the emails from her that said
You
that.
keep interrupting me. I
you
can't
had an
speak.
attorney working on this, and we wouldn't discuss this during the time that our attorney told us not to discuss it.
No, the attorney actually said that it was an administrative decision
Okay.
and that he would only prepare the contract and he doesn't negotiate.
Agree with the truth. Move on.
Did Bill Danzo say that he wasn't going to participate in negotiation? It was up to the board.
It wasn't Mr.
Yes, thank you.
It wasn't
Neither is the
Mr.
law director of the
Danzo
city
that
of
we were
Warren.
talking about.
But
We had an
I'm
attorney
recusing myself.
that we've been working with.
Okay.
Mr. Frederica, I believe, for a period of time now. Did you forget that? Let's move
Just
on.
move on.
Ms. Frenchco.
That was another issue. Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes. Okay,
Item
do you want to have people discuss in executive session, or what do you guys want to do? Let people have any comments before executive session? Or you
I'm
wanna
fine
do-
with either, Mr. President.
Which way do you want to do it, Ms. Frenchco?
I think we should have our executive session.
Okay, and do the discussion.
Motion to go into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider the discipline of public employees, a public employee within the Trumbull County Dog Kennel. I'd like
Second.
Mr. Ambrosi.
Mr. Cancel Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Fuda.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes. Okay, we're going into executive session about an employee in the dog kennel, and then I will restart a new meeting.